Zethkar had conquered 3,000 minds across 17 star systems. The crystalline entity pulsed with satisfaction as it floated through the observation deck of the Galactic Council's research vessel, its translucent form refracting the light of distant suns. Each successful mind binding had added to its collection of memories, experiences, and knowledge. It was the most feared interrogator in known space, capable of extracting secrets from any conscious being. "The human specimen is prepared," announced Dr. Veltan, her 6 arms adjusting various neural monitoring devices. The Altarian scientist's compound eyes reflected nervous anticipation. "Though I must reiterate my concerns about this procedure." Zethkar's crystalline form shifted, emitting a low harmonic frequency that translated as amusement. "Your concerns are noted and dismissed, Doctor. I have penetrated the minds of Zorathian battle priests, Nexari hive queens, and even a juvenile void dancer. One primitive human poses no threat." The subject lay unconscious on the biotable, a middle-aged human male named David Chen, captured during the recent skirmish near the Tau Ceti system. His neural patterns showed typical human brainwave activity, chaotic, inefficient, yet strangely complex. The readings had puzzled the science team for days. "Begin the procedure," Zethkar commanded. The mind-binder extended its consciousness, like ethereal tendrils, feeling for the familiar pathways into another being's thoughts. With humans, the initial breach was always easy. Their mental defenses were laughably weak compared to most species. Zethkar slipped past the outer layers of David's consciousness like water through a broken dam, and immediately realized something was wrong. Where Zethkar expected to find the usual organized chambers of memory and thought, it instead encountered a maelstrom. David's mind wasn't structured like any consciousness Zethkar had ever encountered. Instead of neat corridors of experience, there was a vast churning ocean of interconnected thoughts, memories, emotions, and pure imagination, all existing simultaneously. Zethkar tried to impose order, to create the familiar pathways it used, to navigate alien minds. But David's thoughts refused to be categorized. A childhood memory of building sandcastles was somehow connected to advanced quantum physics equations, which flowed seamlessly into anxiety about a job interview, which triggered a cascade of creative solutions to problems that didn't even exist yet. The mindbinder pushed deeper, confident it could master this chaos. It had dealt with complex minds before. But as it ventured further into David's consciousness, something unprecedented happened. The human's mind began to fight back. Not with the usual psychic barriers or mental shields that other species employed. Instead, David's subconscious seemed to actively incorporate Zethkar's presence into its own chaotic processes. The mind-binder's careful tendrils of thought became tangled in endless loops of human creativity and contradiction. Zethkar found itself trapped in a memory of David watching a sunset while simultaneously experiencing his understanding of stellar nuclear fusion, his emotional response to his daughter's first steps, and a half-remembered song from his childhood, all overlapping and feeding into each other in impossible ways. The mindbinder tried to retreat, but discovered that David's consciousness had somehow wrapped around its own. Where other minds were like houses to be entered and explored, the human mind was like a living ecosystem that absorbed foreign elements and made them part of itself. Panic began to set in as Zethkar realized it was becoming lost in the labyrinth of human thought. The harder it struggled to escape, the more entangled it became. David's dreams merged with his memories, his rational thoughts danced with pure emotion, and his capacity for simultaneous belief in contradictory concepts created paradoxes that made Zethkar's crystalline structure begin to fracture. Then came the truly terrifying discovery. David was dreaming. Even unconscious, the human's mind continued its relentless creativity, spinning new realities and impossible scenarios. Zethkar found itself experiencing David's dream of flying, through clouds made of musical notes while solving mathematical theorems that transformed into butterflies. The absolute lack of logical consistency in human dreaming created recursive loops that threatened to trap the mindbinder forever. In desperation, Zethkar began severing parts of its own consciousness, abandoning portions of itself that had become too deeply entangled in David's chaotic neural networks. It was like a creature gnawing off its own limbs to escape a trap. The crystalline entity finally broke free, but not before losing nearly 30% of its cognitive matrix. It collapsed onto the deck of the research vessel, its once perfect translucent form now clouded and fractured. The harmonic frequencies it emitted were discordant, filled with what could only be described as terror. Dr. Veltan rushed to scan the mind binder while monitoring David's vital signs. Zethkar, what happened? The human's neural activity spiked for only 3.7 seconds before you withdrew. The damaged entity struggled to formulate a response, its thoughts still contaminated with fragments of human irrationality. That was not a mind, it finally managed to communicate. It was a storm, a beautiful, terrible storm that thinks. David Chen remained unconscious, his brain patterns showing nothing unusual except for slightly elevated REM activity, as if he were having particularly vivid dreams. "I don't understand," Dr. Veltan said, her compound eyes studying the readings. "What could have caused such damage to your matrix?" Zethkar's fractured form pulsed weakly. "Humans don't think in lines or structures like other species. They think in impossible shapes. Their minds exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. They can hold contradictory truths, experience non-linear time, and dream of things that cannot exist while somehow making them feel real." The mindbinder paused, struggling to process the experience. Their consciousness isn't just chaotic, it's creatively chaotic. It doesn't just resist invasion, it transforms the invader. That human's mind tried to make me part of its own thoughts, its own dreams. Dr. Veltan looked at the peacefully sleeping human with new respect and fear. "Shall we proceed with conventional interrogation methods?" "No," Zethkar said, its harmonics filled with exhaustion and something resembling awe. "Let him go. Whatever information he possesses isn't worth the risk. That mind isn't meant to be bound. It's meant to be free to create its impossible storms of thought." As David Chen was prepared for release, he began to wake, unaware that the most feared mind reader in the galaxy had just declared human consciousness too dangerous to touch. He stretched, yawned, and wondered why he'd had such strange, vivid dreams about crystals and starlight. In the depths of space, word spread quickly among the Galactic Council's psychic operatives. Human minds were off limits. Not because they were too well defended, but because they were too beautifully, chaotically alive to survive contact with. Humanity's greatest defense had always been their ability to dream impossible dreams, and now the galaxy knew it.